Hi, welcome back to Box Delights. Welcome to the Scythe playthrough. Now, just before we get going, let me just say, in edit, I've picked up a few little errors. We're going to push on through. I've annotated those errors, but this is analog board gaming. You do make mistakes, but as long as I point them out, and hopefully you can learn from them. That's testament to a good design, is that you can still play, make mistakes, and it doesn't ruin the game. But let me just start off. There was one actually right at the end of the previous episode when I moved this worker here next to the factory. So I was picking up a worker from Automa's base. I selected all the valid hexes which were in the neighbourhood of Automa units. I correctly excluded those that had a worker, and then selected the destination hex using the tiebreaker closest to factory. But I missed a step, which is in the neighbourhood of the most Automa units, which is of course this tundra here. So rather than here, this worker should have been placed back here on this tunnel in this tundra, because it's next to 1, 2, 3, 4 units. All right, so yeah, be careful. Even placing my cubes out, I managed to skip a step. Right, let's push on with the next turn. Turn 10, let's push on, and I think I'm going to be doing a trade produce move. Trade move produce, yeah, trade move produce. I'm trying to set up a combo if I can, but I'm almost out of coins, so I'm not going to be able to do this for too much longer. So trade, pay a coin. Trade 2 resources. I'm going to gain 2 metal. And we'll put them here with this guy. Don't have food. That's the end of my turn. Automa. Okay, ignore this one. It's not his faction. He's doing a worker move. Let's pick out our valid hexes. So the worker being moved is the one closest home, which is the one on home. Neighbourhood of Automa units is now all the way around here. Not where there's currently a worker. Tiebreaker, valid hex in the neighbourhood of the most Automa units. Okay, this one's in the neighbourhood of 1, 2, 2, 1. This one, it's got to be this one here, right? Because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got to be this one. Okay. Right, next. Next, he gains a worker and gains a coin. We don't have any recruits, and he moves up 1 spot. Okay, we're moving next. And we can move 1, 2, 3 units, or take a coin. Let's move 3 units. Good to get this mine out, wouldn't it? Right, let's see. Then we can pay 2 metal and deploy another mech. Gain 3 coins. Let's move our 3 units then. So I want to move this worker up. I don't want to leave these resources behind. I want to keep control of them. So remember, workers can move with resources. He's moving up here. That's 1. Character's going to come across. That's 2. I want to start, if I can, trying to attack and pushing down his combat value. We'll see what happens. Third one, I think is going to be to move the mech back. I can't cross into villages. Riverwalk is mountains and forests, so it has to move back here. Actually, no. Let's switch that. Let's just move. Let's move on. Let's have a combat unit push up, because I'm about to deploy a new mech anyway. Because we're going to spend these 2 metal, and we're going to do this: 2 metal, deploy a mech, and take 3 coins. Here's my 3 coins. Deploy a mech. Now, do I want the underpass? Underpass is good. Disarm is good, but I think I want speed actually. +1 hex movement. Remember, I need to deploy this when I've got a worker, which is going to be here, I think. Back to the Automa. Okay, alright, now we do have a blue faction icon for the Nords, so they're going to move another worker. And they've got a worker now on their home base, so it's going to be this one. Valid hexes on all of these. In the neighbourhood of the most automa units. It's going to be this one here, isn't it? That's in the neighbourhood of 1, 2, 3, 4. They're doing a job spreading out. And they're going to start working towards this factory, I think. Alright, next job. 4 power. Wow. That's a huge bonus and a star. Up to 15, just one more power and they've got their first star. One more star and they've got another. And they've currently got, what, 10 coins? Yeah, 10 coins. Let's switch that out. Right, back to me. Produce, I think is what I'm doing. It's not costing anything yet. We're going to produce on 1, 2, 3 territories. And then we can pay 3 wood to build one of our constructions. So let's pick our 3 territories. Well, I know I want wood, metal, and village worker. These are the only places that I have workers anyway. So 1, 2, forests, mountains, villages produce workers. Take another from the left, another worker. Now it's going to cost a power to start producing. Pay 3 wood. 2, one more here, 3 wood. 1, 2, 3. Build a construction, take 1 coin. Take the coin before we forget. And then decide which do we want. Do we want the monument, the mine, the mill, or the armory? I think I want the mill. I can place the mill with a worker, and I'm going to place it here on these forests, I think. Yep. The mill will now produce timber when we take the produce action. I'm working towards getting these constructions out. Alright, Automa, what you're going to do is going to take an encounter factory action, which means he's going to select the Automa character, find valid hexes or in the neighbourhood of any Automa that's got the factory or an encounter, which is just this one, the factory. Yeah, it's this one. And it says, yeah, place the character in the destination. If there were any encounter tokens, you pick them up. Character on factory takes a random factory card if it doesn't already have one. So one of these 3 is going to go, it doesn't matter which one. There's 2 left for me. Next, ignore that part, he's going to gain a worker and a coin. And then move the star up 1. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. That goes on their base. Because they're about to move to level 2. So that moves up. These, not this one, this is the one we're currently working, go back into the deck and get shuffled. And then we rotate so the 2 is facing upwards. Okay. They gain a star, so 1 out of 6. They haven't completed a specific objective, so you just place it next to the triumph track. Doesn't matter where. And now they're about to get a little bit more tricky. Back to me. And it's time for me to get aggressive. Let's move. So I can move 3 different units. I don't have enough metal to do this, incidentally. Not yet, anyway. So let's see. Who do I want to move? Well, I want to move my character. And remember, we've got +1 hex movement now because of that upgrade. So 1, 2. And I could go in here and hop from this tunnel to any other tunnel. So for the purposes of movement, tunnels are considered adjacent. Right? Automa ignores this, but we don't. But I want to head down here to this encounter token. Right, that's one movement. Next, I want to move this mech. Again, they can hop through tunnels, but I don't want to. I'm going to go 1, 2. We're going to get aggressive. We're going to move into a space with another combat unit. This will result in combat, but we only resolve this once our movement's complete. We've got one more move if we wish to make, and I do wish. I'm going to move this mech, and I'm going to bring one worker with me. I'll leave one back here on the village. 1, and then 2. I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave this worker behind. That's my third movement. A couple of things to note. As soon as you move into a space with an enemy unit or an encounter token, then your movement immediately ends. So if I'd moved one space into here, I couldn't then move away. Likewise there. All right. Okay, first thing, there's a sequence to this. We do combat first, then encounters, then we move on to bottom row actions if we wish. So how does this combat work then? This is where we need these dials. So we'll let them be the blue and we'll be the black. Marries with our colours. Attacker, defender. I'm the attacker. If there are any workers in that territory, they'd be forced to retreat. They would get sent back to their home base and you'd lose 1 popularity for every worker you force to retreat. Right? Attacking workers is not a great way to make friends. With combat unit against combat unit, we're going to have a confrontation. We're going to do battle. And on these dials, we secretly choose from 0 to 7 how much power we wish to commit to this combat. Now, I've got 5 power, so I can only commit up to 5. They've got 15, but there's still a limit of 7. How much power they commit is going to be given by an AI card. We'll come to that because for the moment it's still a surprise. Okay, we don't know how much. I've got a good idea. Because they're on 15 power, I think they're going to commit 7, a full 7 to this combat. And that's good because they're going to lose that power. That's going to bring them back down to 8, which means they're far away from 16. But if they put 7, that's higher than my 5. I know they're going to win the combat. As the attacker, you've got to have as much or more, okay, so equal to or greater than combat power assigned to win the combat. But there's a little trick, and that's where these combat cards come in. For every combat unit you've assigned to the combat, so if I'd moved my character in here, for example, I'd have 2 combat characters. If I put another mech in, there'd be 3. For each combat unit, you can add the combat strength or the power of a combat card. Right, now I've got 1 unit in there. I can add 1 combat card, and I've got a 5. This is the highest. So I know I'm going to put a 5 in. AI is going to do the same, or Toma's going to do the same. He's got combat cards too. How many they commit is also governed by an AI card. Automa's not limited by the number of units or combat units they've got, so they could potentially put 2 combat cards in. I'm going to guess they'll put 1 in. There's a chart up here that says how many combat cards there are of each number. So there's 6 5s, 8 4s, 12 3s, 16 2s. I'm holding a bunch of 2s, 3 of them, so there's only 13 2s left, but it's still the most popular choice. If I put my 5 in, I know I've got, and I put 5 power, I've got 10, so my odds are so much better. The problem is I've only got 5. If I spend all 5, I'm back down to 0. And I know that producing now costs 1 power because I had this extra worker out. So if I put my power down to 0, I won't be able to take the produce action. So I'm tempted to just put 4 in. 4 plus 5 is 9. If you put 7 plus 2, that's 9. Attacker wins on ties. It's a bit of a gamble, It's a bit of a gamble because there's a good chance he's going to come higher. Let's gamble. Let's gamble. Let's put 4 power plus a 5 and we'll see how this plays out. If we win the combat, we send his character packing and we win a star. There's a star reward for winning a combat. If we lose, we get a combat card as compensation, but then we've got to retreat. Any resources that are left behind, controlled by the victor. Automa doesn't leave resources out on the board, but we simulate that using the card that's sitting on top of the discard pile. There's a little box down the bottom, and it's got one circular resource icon. That says, if we win the combat and send them packing, they will leave 1 resource token behind. And that's why you keep this card here on the top of the discard pile, purely for that resource icon. All right, so we're fixed. Yep, I think we're happy. We're going to go with 5 and 4. Now we draw an Automa card, and we're going to turn it sideways. We're just going to look at the combat stats here. All right, they've got 15 power. So with 15 power, we look in this chart here. If they had 0 to 7, they were in this range, then they'd be putting 7 power up on their dial. So they are going heavy on attack here. 8 to 13, 7, 14 plus 7. So no matter what, they were going a full 7 on this dial. So they're committing 7 power to this combat. Then we look here. They've got a stack of combat cards. We take the number of cards indicated here. It could be 0, it could be 1, it could be 2. They're taking 1 card and they're going to add this to the 7 that they've already committed. We're hoping for a 2 or lower. Let's see what it is. It is a 2. It is a 2. So 7 plus 2 is a 9. We've got 9. Attacker wins, draws. We are victorious. Excellent. Okay. These combat cards get discarded. I think actually there may be AI cards where they add 3 combat cards. I think it's 0 to 3. So you've got to be careful. If it's got less cards than indicated, then it just plays as many as it can. We spend the power that we committed, so we've gone down from 5 to 1. We spent 4. They spent 7. They go down to 8. They gain a combat card as compensation for losing. Right, so just take 1, stick it on the top of the deck. We don't know what it is. Their character has to retreat. Now, unlike a regular player whose character would retreat to its home base, the Automa's character retreats to its player mat. So that's how the character ends up here. That's how some of these actions will end up putting the character out onto the map from their faction mat. Okay. We then check to see if they left any resources behind. Incidentally, this combat card goes in a separate discard pile. Right, we're going to put it here. This one that's on top of the resources discard pile, we see it's got 1 resource icon. We can take 1 resource and place it in that territory. It's like they had resources with them, we've kicked them out, we now control resources. So timing your attacks when there's resource icons here is a good idea if you think you're going to win. We can choose which resource it is. Let's say it's metal. So there's 1 metal up here in this factory. Additionally, we've won our first combat, which means we get a star. So we get to place a star in this box here. Winning your first combat gets you 1 of your 6 stars. Now remember, we're Saxony. Our ability is that we can place an unlimited number of stars from winning combat. Normally it will be the first and the second combat you win only. As attacker or as defender, we've got an unlimited number. Okay, and that is combat concluded. That's how combat works. So you can see our power's taken a big hit. So getting up to 16 is not going to be easy, but we've got a star anyway from winning combat. Gaining more power is done through the bolster. It's also done through encounters and that kind of stuff. Right? Okay. If our character was here now, we'd be grabbing a factory card. Mechs and workers can't claim factory cards. Factory cards are great. We do want to get one as soon as we can because factory cards give you another action. It's usually pretty good. But we're not quite done yet. Our character's sitting here with an encounter token. So we'll remove the token, draw an encounter card. Okay. So it looks like we've come across a family who are about to lose perhaps their son, a soldier that's going off to war and leaving his family behind. It says we can give the newly recruited soldier a lift to his new assignment, hire the soldier's family to work for us, or throw the crestfallen family at their house. Pay 2 popularity and build a structure. Yeah, it's tempting. It's tempting. Pay $2 and gain a worker and any 2 resources. Or gain $2 and 1 popularity. I know this sounds terrible, but I might throw that crestfallen family out of their house. I'm going to pay 2 popularity. I'm going down from 4 to 2. And I'm going to build a structure, and I'm going to build the monument. Oh, I do feel guilty. But building the monument means is a way to gain popularity. So two bolster actions and I'll get that popularity back. So I might just do it. No, I feel bad. Now anything you gain goes on the space you're on, so it's going here. But the added benefit is structures control territories. The difference with structures is if an enemy unit moves in here, they will take over control of that territory. So the structure alone is good enough to control the territory as long as there aren't any enemy units there. And control of a village, I think, is one of my objectives. Control at least 3 village territories at the end of your turn. So I've got 2 now. I mean, I've got 2 anyway because my character's here. But my character's going to move away. And one more move and I would control 3 villages. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm placing my monument here in this village. Okay, let's carry on because I'm not quite done yet. I can pay 2 metal now to deploy another mech and gain 3 coins. I have 2 metal now. Well, the one here that I produced in my village and the one that I've just gained as spoils from this factory combat. Right, so 2 metal. I can gain 3 coins and deploy another mech. This one says before combat on a territory with a tunnel, an opponent gets -2 power. This one says I can move between mountains and tunnels. It's a good way out of my home peninsula because if I'm here, I can pop anywhere onto the map, any one of these tunnels. Let's go with that one. And I'm going to deploy here. Alright, that's it. That ends my turn. Back to the automa. And now, when we flip, we can see that we're now doing red, not green. Okay. Nordic in parentheses says move a worker. Selected worker is the one on my home base. Valid hexes. Neighbourhood of any automa unit. Doesn't have an automa worker. Those 6 do. No enemy unit, so remove that one. They're choosing a destination that's in the neighbourhood of the most automa units that's not in the neighbourhood of enemy combat units. These 2 are in the neighbourhood of enemy combat units, so they go. So which one of the remaining 5 is adjacent to the most automa units? That's 1, that's 2, that's 2, that's 2, that's 1. So we need a tiebreaker closest to the factory. So it's either, which one's 2s? These are 2s, these are 2s, right. That one's 2 away, that one's 2 away. Reading order's next. So actually it's this one. Reading order. This is the closest. So that's where our guy's going. Okay. As I say, it's kind of intuitive once you get there. I find using these just makes it a lot easier for me. It means I don't have to think too hard. Okay, next they're going to gain a combat card. They're going to gain a coin, and then they're going to deploy their character from their character map. It's got a recruit bonus, but I still haven't recruited anyone. I've not been able to do this because I've not got any food. I've got no farms, and then they're going to move the star up one space. Okay, coin. And like I said, this icon here says if the Automa's character is on their character map, move it to their home base, otherwise they get a mech. So booting their character out was a way of slowing them down, putting mechs out effectively. And they gain a combat card. And move their token up one space on the tracker. 1, 2, 3, 4 away from another star. Back to me. I'm going to trade again, actually. So pay a coin. Take 2 resources. I'm going to take 2 metal. Put them here. These 2 workers. Can't pay food, I don't have any, so I can't enlist. I really need to get my food production going, don't I? Back to the Automa. Okay. First action says, make an attacking move versus a combat unit if the Automa has power greater or equal to 7. It does, it has 8 power. Select Automa combat unit closest to the Automa base. Well, there's 2 on the base. There's a mech and a character. And it says valid hexes are in the neighbourhood of any Automa unit or the neighbourhood of Automa's base and contains an enemy combat unit. There is one right here. This factory, this mech is in the neighbourhood of an Automa unit. Pick up the selected unit and we place it in the destination hex. Incidentally, you may ask, why did I move the character? Because it's not actually covered in the rules, but it is covered by an FAQ. If they're both a mech and a character at home base, character gets priority. Now, I think I'm going to be in trouble here because I've only got 1 combat card, I've got 1 power. There's no way I'm doing anything. I'm putting a big fat 0 up on this. And I'm not even going to commit a card. Actually, I will commit a card. I'm going to commit a combat card. You have to have committed at least 1 power to get, as a loser, at least a combat card as compensation. So I am going to do it. I'm going to put my 2 in and hopefully I'll get something better back as compensation. We are going to get booted though, aren't we? So let's switch this. He's got 8 power, he's putting a 7 up and 2 combat cards. Yeah, so he's going to go down to 1. 2 combat cards in the game. A 3 and a 3, wow. Yeah, we didn't stand a chance, did we? No, no. All right, so we lose. We will take a card as compensation. We got a 4, that's good. I'm happy with that. We're going to get booted out. Back to our home base. Lastly, the Automa does place a star, and this time it will go on a winning combat one. So that's the only way. So they can do this twice. Apart from their tracker, the only other way for them to get stars out is to win combat up to 2 times and get their 16 power. So yeah, that was a cheap victory for them. Alright, next. So they've done their move. They're gaining 3 power. 1, 2, 3. We still don't have a recruit out, and this is going up the tracker 1 spot. Okay, back to us. Oh, it's left me licking my wounds a little bit here though, hasn't it? Particularly as they've recovered their power. I'm stuck on 1, but I mean I could move in again. We've got 2 movement, remember. Our workers, they still only move one, so that upgrade, that speed upgrade only applies to mechs and our character. Now let's do it. Let's move. Move 3 units. I've also got underpass, so I can move between mountains and tunnels. So I could do that, for example. That's one movement. Now I control 1, 2, 3 villages. How about we go 1, 2. That's our second move. And then 1 as my third move. And then spend 2 metal, which I have, and deploy my final mech. Gain 3 coins. Here's my 3 coins. Deploy my mech on a space with a worker. This one. I'll pay the 2 metal. Now we've got some stars out. I've got 4 mechs out. That completes a star. Then divide and conquer. Have 0 factory cards and control at least 2 territories adjacent to the factory before the end of your turn, and control at least 3 village territories at the end of your turn. That's 2 objectives. That's 2 stars. Now remember, normally it's just 1 star, but I've got this special Saxony Empire ability. There they are. So 1, 2, 3 villages controlled, 2 spaces next to the factory, 2 objective stars. That's 4 stars out. 2 objectives completed. These go on the bottom of the objective deck. And we are vulnerable. Our mechs are vulnerable to attack, so don't be surprised if that's what happens next. Automa's turn. Okay. That's for my faction. Move a mech. That's a non-attacking mech move. Valid hexes are in the neighbourhood of any Automa units or Automa's base, have no enemy unit, that removes these, and have no Automa combat unit, that removes these. Pick up the selected mech and choose a destination. So one of these valid hexes is the shortest distance from an enemy combat unit. So any one of these. These are all 1 away from combat units. So we'll get rid of others. Tiebreaker, closest to the factory. These are all 1 away. And then reading order. So reading order is this one. That's where he goes. Next. He's not the red faction. He's going to deploy a mech and grab a combat card. He's got 2 mechs left. And then it does move up 1 spot. Okay, back to me. Is it too soon to do this now? Let's try it. Let's produce. We have to pay 1 power. We're on 0. We produce on 3 spaces plus the windmill. So we'll produce here. That gives me a worker. This one gives me a worker. I don't have a 3rd space, so the windmill one's a bit of a waste at the moment, but it does produce its own resource, so it acts like a worker. If I had another worker out, let's say here, I could pick 1, 2, 3, those are my 3 spaces, and the windmill space, and the workers on the windmill space would also produce. That's the benefit of the windmill. You can end up producing on 4 different spaces. As it goes, I'm going to produce 3 wood here. 1 for each worker, 1 for the mill, and a worker here and a worker here. So that's 2 more workers. 1, 2. And I'm going to grab that 3 wood. we're going to take the bottom action, which costs 3 wood. We're going to build a construction, the armory or the mine. Let's take the mine. And we're going to place it where there's a worker, I think here, and then take 1 coin. Yep. It's a shame I haven't got any of these recruits out. If I'd paid 3 food, enlist, it gives me 2 coins, I can move one of these things up like this. So every time I take the produce action, let's say I do this one, enlist this recruit, every time I take the produce action I would gain 1 popularity. This one gives you a combat card, this one if you enlist gives you an extra coin here, and then this one gives you an extra power. But you can't do everything in this game, and that's the point. You've got to try and specialise a little bit. Of course, the other bonus of enlisting is if I'd done this one, that's what this means. So when the automa does this, if I'd got this recruit enlisted, then when I see this symbol, it automatically gives me a coin. If you have this recruit, get a coin. Right? Me on the automa's turn. So that's always a bonus. As it goes, it's back to the automa now. Right, have they got 8 power? No, they don't. So they're going to move a worker again. Take a coin, gain a worker. They go enlist for an extra popularity, and they're not moving the star. So let's select a worker. Closest to automa's base. One of these 3? One of these 2. In reading order. So we're selecting this one. Valid hexes are in the neighbourhood of any automa unit. Have no enemy units. Have no automa worker other than the one selected, is a valid hex, is not in the neighbourhood of enemy combat units, and is in the neighbourhood of the most automa units. So the automa is quite happy to keep his workers protected right now. He's staying here. Next, he's gaining a coin and a worker. Last worker. That one's going on his base. Back to me. I'm going to move 3 different units. They are 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. 3 units all going into the factory. It is risky because I've got 0 power, but I've got 3 cards, and it's going to leave me defenseless if he decides to counter-attack. Let's see what the automa does. So we've got 8. He's got 4 power. It could be bad. He's going to stick 1 combat card in there, which is not great. Alright, let's see what he does. So he's spending 4, 1 combat card. This is a 5. Oh, yeah, you can only beat me with a 5. It's a 3. So 4 plus 3 is 7 versus 8. We are victorious. Wow. He gets a combat card as compensation. We win a star. And we send his character back to his board. We get our second combat star. He leaves 2 resources behind, which I'm going to assume is, I don't know, food? Should we take food? Let's take 2 wood. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm actually going to take a wood and a food. Oh my gosh, I can't make my mind up. I'm going to take a wood and a food. And that will do it, I think. Because now we're on the factory. We get to look at these factory cards and pick one. I can either pay combat card, gain 3 coins, move a unit twice, or pay a popularity and gain a mech or construction, move a unit twice. I'm going to take this one. That's the one I'm taking. All right, Automa, back to you. Okay, does it have 5 or more power? No. An attacking move against a worker. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can do that. The valid hex is in the neighbourhood of an Automa and contains an enemy worker. No, there's no such thing. So he's going to do this one, which is a non-attacking mech move. And he's looking for valid hexes. We already know about this. Neighbourhood of Automa unit. In the neighbourhood of Automa's base, it's got no enemy unit, no Automa combat unit. And it's the one that's the shortest distance from enemy combat units. So it will be this hex here. That's the one closest to base. Can't go here, there's already a mech. Could go here. That's also in the neighbourhood of an autonomy unit, but the tiebreaker is closest to factory and then reading order. So that's the one. Okay, then he's going to send his character out to base and gain a coin. Okay, next he moves up the tracker. He's 1 spot away from gaining another star, but I'm about to finish things because, I mean, I could play on. I think I might just pip him here. So I'm going to do this action. It says pay a popularity. I'm going down from 2 to 1. It's just really bad. Gain my final construction, which is my armory. So I'm going to place. No, that's a shame. I'm put it up here. It needs to be with a worker, so up here. It's a single move, but I move twice. No, let's just move here like this, just to control an extra territory. Place our final star, which is 4 constructions. That's the 6. That ends the game. Wow. Oh, it looks so pretty. I mean, there was lots of squabbling over there. I did manage to get my factory in once. But my popularity is really low. I don't normally finish that low, but there you go. So let's tot up our points, shall we? We're going to get, so right in this bottom section, 3 coins for every star. So that we've got 6 stars, that's 18 points. Then we've got 2 points for every territory we control. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's 14. And then one coin for every 2 resources. There's just 2 resources here, so that's just 1 extra coin. Okay. Then there's this bonus, which is for every tunnel adjacent to our constructions. You can only count each tunnel once, and actually it's just 1, 2. That's on our tile, so it's just 2. So that's 4 more coins for this bonus. Okay, so 1, 2. Rivers don't break adjacency. Give 5, take 1 away. That's 4 coins. Automa doesn't get this bonus, but they do get this. So they get 4 for every star. They only got 2 stars out, so they're taking 8 coins, plus 3 for every territory they control, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 3, 24. So that's huge. They don't have resources, so they don't get any points for that. Add these to the coins that we collected during the game. I've got 11 here. Added to my 37 is 48, just 48 points. They collected 14 coins, plus their 32, 46 points. Wow, that was close. We did, we just pipped the Automa to a victory. What a super game. Well, I hope this has helped you. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm ready to set up and play again. Super game, and I'm sorry it took me so long to show it to you. Thanks for watching. This has been Scythe. I've been Ricky Royal. You've been watching Boxes of Lights. See you next time.